I'm going to call to order the Norton Charter Commission's meeting of Thursday, February 4th, 2021. It is our first meeting of the new year. Welcome back, everybody. Good to see you all. And just a quick point of order. A happy birthday to Sandy. It's her birthday today.
Birthday, Sandy.
Thank you.
Sandy.
So we got to make it quick so she can go eat her cake. That's what I've been told. Okay, let the record show. Hang on, let me just start recording. Looks like Norton Media Center is here, but just in case we need a backup. Okay, we're presently recording. We've been called to order. All members, with the exception of Dave Heaney, are in attendance. He had a meeting that was running late and may be joining us, but he did send his comments on the documents that I sent around earlier, so we can definitely dig into those. The minutes of the prior meeting were just sent out by Sandy. We're all kind of off schedule because we haven't met in a while, so we're out of practice on how this works. So I will take a recommendation if people have had a chance to look at them and are comfortable with accepting them. I will take a motion on that, and if not, we can table them to our next meeting.
I'll move to accept.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Just a quick roll call. David Wren?
Yes.
Keith?
Yes.
Carrie? Janie?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Denise?
Abstain.
Okay. I too vote yes. The minutes are accepted, and those are the minutes of the meeting of November 2nd of 2020.
I'll be a yes too.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kevin.
It's okay. It's okay.
You're not on my screen. Although neither is Denise. I just, we don't need your opinion. Sorry. I'm out of practice. No real administrative items tonight, if anybody has anything. All right, moving on. There is nobody from the public in attendance. So I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment section of the meeting. And I'll give you a status update of what's happened since we last met. And I've emailed brief updates here and there, but I'll just do a quick overview for those who may not have seen it. Our approved ballot summary was sent to Lucia, and my understanding is it's already at the printer to go on the ballot. The final report and charter files have also been sent to Lucia, and they have also already been sent to the printer, and I approved the proof of it a couple of weeks ago. Looks very similar to the one that we put inside the Sun Chronicle. The mailing, I've talked to Lucia, is scheduled for about 3 weeks prior, so I would estimate the reports being in people's hands probably the week of the 29th of March. And they are going to 7,512 houses. And those are all houses with at least one registered voter in it. Another quick update, the debt exclusion question that is up for discussion, the select board decided to put that up for a vote at the regular town election. And we met with the select board back at the end of December and provided them with an overview and asked for their support of the Charter Commission recommendations. Next steps are we need to ramp up kind of the education and outreach stage of our process. So to that end, we have a few to-dos on our list. We need to, similarly to the way we met with the select board, we want to go back to the finance committee and the school committee, provide them with an update, advise how our changes are going to affect their boards, more specifically with FinCom, and also seek their support of the recommendations. I'm going to reach out to the chairs of both of those committees, and I'll apprise everybody of the dates, so that we're not having multiple meetings in a week. I'm going to recommend that we try and schedule a charter commission meeting on the nights that we attend those meetings. We can drop off and reconvene on our own, so that we can give everybody kind of status updates and just go over any new matters that we may need to. So if I could ask for, if we could try to have everybody in attendance at those meetings, I think it'll make it a little bit more efficient than trying to schedule us in FinCom and school committee and separate charter commission meetings. The next thing we need to talk about is information sessions. We are going to be limited in the scope of our outreach due to COVID restrictions, obviously. I know we did host a public hearing outdoors when our preliminary report was done. I'm not sure I'm in favor, and I'm not sure anybody's really going to be in favor of meeting outside in February or March to talk with us. So, but if anybody feels very strongly in the opposite opinion, I will certainly open that up. But we should probably talk about how many we want to hold and when we want to hold them and the timing of them. So I will open it up to anybody's suggestions at this point. Not everybody at once. All right. So should we space them further apart or try and have them like twice in a meeting in a week, for example?
How many are we looking at?
I was thinking 2. I could be convinced to go to 3. I guess it depends on, it's hard to gauge how much participation we're actually going to get.
I think regardless of whatever we do, when we definitely, I think we should do one as close to election day as possible.
Okay.
I think that when, in my opinion, you might get the most people that kind of tune in. It's kind of 0 hour, and I think people are going to be wondering what's on the ballot. And I think, not that you won't get some people in the next couple, if you do one in a couple weeks or even the beginning of March. I just think that if we do the last one as close to, election day as possible, I think you might get that group that's kind of, hey, the day's here, I need to find out what's going on.
Okay. It also, we may wind up with more people interested in them once they start getting the reports in the charter in the mail and wondering what those are.
I agree. I think there's some people that obviously have no idea that this is even going on, and when you get something delivered to your house, you're going to obviously start asking questions. And I think that if we can direct the people that have those questions about what they just got in the mail of, you're going to receive more information at this date, and we can give it to them as close to election as possible. I think it may help our cause as well, is that we don't have to then go battling with weeks to go before the actual election day.
Okay. So is everybody on board with 2, or do we think we just need 1, or do we think we need to expand it to 3?
So I was going to say, Laura, I'm sorry, this is Denise, but I would say at least 2, 1 on a weekday, 1 on a weekend if possible, just to kind of open up the options for folks.
Yep. Good idea. Everybody in favor of 2? Sandy, were you like saying?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I agree with what Kevin was saying with doing it this close to the election. My only concern is We still don't know for sure whether there's going to be mail-in ballots.
Mail-in
correct?
ballots, yeah.
So if people get those earlier and start voting earlier as soon as they get them, and we're waiting till, right before the actual election day.
Yep.
And that's where I guess, 2 would be good too, because, to Kevin's point, we could do one right beforehand, but if we did something right when the people are expected to get mail-in ballots, if that happens, that might be a good timing wise too.
Yeah. And I think
So
if I'm not, sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry, Laura.
I said the last I saw, Lucia updated the select board and said the state has until, I think it's the 31st of March to make a decision. Or I think I take that back. I'm sorry. The 31st of March is when whatever the special legislature that's in place that allows for everybody to have gotten a mail-in ballot last fall expires, and they need to extend that and or make a decision as to whether the states or the towns are required to mail out ballots to everybody.
I was just going to ask, do we know when we're planning to mail the package, the full charter to everyone's houses? And
yes.
Do we know what the earliest possible date could be if there was mail-in ballots? What the earliest possible date that could be?
The first, we do know the answer. So in talking with Lucia, she's going to give the okay to the printing company to mail 3 weeks prior. So that would put it around I forget what the date is, 26th or 27th of March. So the week of the 29th, I would anticipate is when people would start receiving them. The second question was, no, in regards to the state, everything is very much up in the air. I understand there's still a question. So you can request an absentee ballot right now. And so like the elections that they had last fall, the state gave the towns the option to allow all voters to get their ballots by mail. And they did it with that postcard. You had to select which elections you wanted to vote by mail, or you could select them all. My understanding is there was some discussion as to the state just simply requiring towns to automatically mail a mail-in ballot to everyone at this town's expense, unfortunately. But that, as far as at last I heard, has not been clarified. I've got somebody sitting in on the select board meeting to see if there's any update on that front. But as of today, there's not. So we're kind of
assuming mail-in
mercy.
ballots are, assuming that mail-in ballots are allowed, I'm assuming it'll just be an extension of what's already in place. So how many weeks prior to, I don't remember, and we'd have to ask Lucia, I suppose, but how many weeks prior to the election were the mail-in ballots available to send in? I don't remember.
I don't either. And I'm sure it's probably similar to our report and charter, like there's a deadline by which they have to be mailed, but the town can probably make their own decision as to when they actually do get mailed. But I can find, in terms of the absentee ballot, I can find out what the deadline is for that, and I can assume, or we can extrapolate that the mail-in ballot mailing timeline is similar.
Just trying to figure out if there's a sweet spot between when they get the charter and when they can possibly vote, right? That's all.
I would think it's got to be around the same time frame. 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks prior to the election is when you're probably going to start mailing them. Or is it even earlier? Maybe they were earlier. I don't remember when I got my ballot last year.
Well, if we can nail that down, I think Sandy's point is a good one. We should, if Lucia has any idea,
okay,
we should think about doing an info session around that time.
Okay. And then should plan on one for just prior to the election, like a week out? Okay. Should we make that the weekend one? I know. There are no
Sure.
there are no right answers. Yeah.
Right.
Denise, if you could see it, everybody's just kind of like shrugging, going, yeah, maybe. All right. So elections on the 10th. Yeah, not that.
Easter is April 4th, so keep that in mind when we're scheduling.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking at the count. I don't know what the correct answer is and whether a weeknight that week is better or doing it on the 3rd is better.
I think doing it a weeknight just because of the Easter holiday that week might be better. I agree that I think the weekend before would be ideal, but given that it is Easter, I even if it's the day before, well, I'd say people are traveling, but I don't think that's the case. But I just worry with it being the holiday weekend.
Okay. All right. So let's look at. So we're going to assume people are receiving them the week of the 29th and at the latest, early week of the 5th. So why don't we try, I don't want to do Easter Monday either. What about Tuesday the 6th? It's 4 days out.
Sure.
And if we plan it in advance enough, and if we start getting feedback on the invitation that, I can't make it, why isn't this during the day? I don't mind sucking it up and doing a second one if there is significant interest and people can't make it. I'd rather people be informed than not. So I will work to be as accommodating as possible. I recommend we work to be as accommodating as possible. So does the 6th sound okay? So we can set at least one date in stone and then talk about the other date once I have a conversation with Lucia.
Yep.
Okay. April 6th, 7 o'clock. It's kind of after dinner. It's not too early. It's not too late. All right, and we'll call that the second info session. All right. Cool. Let's move on. All right, so we talked about info sessions. Just kind of a general in terms of outreach. Obviously, if you can message or update friends and neighbors that the question's coming up, asking them for their support. Ask them to share any posts that they see and invitations to the information sessions so we can get some good turnout. In terms of education, there's a set of frequently asked questions that have been generated from kind of social media posts that we decided to kind of officially address. Those are the ones I sent around the other night. Once I kind of finish going through the rest of this, we'll take a look at those and edit them. Another couple of updates. Kevin and I are going to tape a short video message to run on Norton Media Center. Basically, why you should support the recommendations. We're still working on the script. We'll share it with everybody once it's done and make sure they're on board. Looking to be no more than like 3 to 5 minutes. And that's all. So the frequently asked questions, once we kind of get them finalized, we're going to post them to the webpage. I did talk to Charlene, and unfortunately, we're looking for kind of an accordion style web design where you hit the question, it drops down to the answer. And unfortunately, the platform that the town website's on doesn't support that. So I think we're probably safer kind of doing individual questions, and I'll number them so they kind of go in a logical order. We'll post them on the webpage. They'll get shared on social media. And then I am also going to do a video voiceover of them for Norton Media Center. So I'll give the actual body of the answers to them. They will design something to show on the screen, and I'll tape a voiceover, and then they'll merge them together so that my voice goes along with the questions. So I'll be working on that in the next couple of weeks. I would expect additional frequently asked questions to be raised as we get closer to the election, especially once the reports are mailed. We'll address those as needed. We may need, to put other formal answers together for folks and make those available in an easily accessed place. Just a reminder, Janie, Kerry, Sandy, and I will be responding to any comments, correcting any inaccuracies, anything that's in need of response on social media. We'll also answer any questions that come up, again, that may result in a new frequently asked question. If you see anything out there that hasn't been addressed by anyone, can you please let one of us know and do your best? I understand, some things may be frustrating and you want to go straight at it and correct it, but try and refrain from responding if you can, just so that we don't wind up with a quorum on the post. And even the folks that are going to be kind of doing the communications will talk amongst ourselves and agree who is going to formally respond to any one particular question, so that there is only one person from the Charter Commission answering any one in particular question, but not all of them. We'll kind of split them up as we go along. And then the last thing is basically just an update, just so you're aware. There are now 2 different political action committees that have officially formed. One is in favor of the charter recommendations, and that one involves the same people who helped get the Charter Commission formed. And they will handle the political side of things. And it also looks like there will likely be a campaign against the Charter Commission recommendations. And that has been formed under that will be under a second political action committee. And that was formed by Steve Hornsby and Bob Kimball. So just so you're aware, if you happen to see anything, just make others aware of it, so we know what's out there and what's being shared, and we can correct any inaccuracies that may come out of that. So just so everybody's aware. In terms of outreach and education, does anybody have any questions and or suggestions or ideas for getting information out in front of people, given the fact that we are going to be limited and not being able to meet with individual or small groups or people in person? Everybody's happy? Okay, good. All right. Why don't we jump into just reviewing the frequently asked questions. Dave Heaney was not able, well, his meeting hasn't even ended yet. He shared with me his comments, and I tried to incorporate them directly into my document so I wasn't jumping back and forth. So what I'm going to do is, and I forget how to do this, I'm going to share them if I can figure out how to do it. There it is. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, let's start with why. I'm going to go with why at large. I don't know why. It just happened to be the first one that popped up here. So I'm going to close that, and I'm going to, well, I don't want to remove the editing capabilities, but I will see if I can make that bigger, because I have a feeling some people are probably saying that's too small. That's too big. Okay, can everybody see? All right. So this was the original up at the top that I'm scrolling by right now, was the original body of the text. Dave Heaney came in with a suggestion and said he would overall on all three of the kind of the why questions, he had indicated that because he has ADHD, that we should get right to the point and state the reasons at the beginning and make a very strong statement at the beginning of all of these. So his recommendation was to add this kind of section in here, and basically it does repeat itself. So it's pulling out the two primary reasons from below that were explained and putting them at the top. So it starts with the manner of electing counselors, subject of considerable discussion and deliberation more than any of the decision. The two primary reasons for the decisions explained further below were that we wanted to ensure all of our counselors are accountable to all townspeople, and we wanted to maximize the pool of candidates who are willing to serve. And then I just struck the ultimately and made that a capital the. And that's what I have for comments right now. Do people agree with kind of restating or leading with a firm statement that kind of reinforces the explanation further below?
Yeah, I agree that, get right to the point for the people who, are going to think it's too long to read.
Yeah.
Right up front. I think that's a great suggestion.
Okay. Does anybody?
I agree with that. I agree with that too.
Good.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah, that's not my strong. My strong point is getting into elaborate detail and explaining everything ad nauseum. So this was a subject of much editing. Did anybody else have any edits, comments, suggestions, ideas for the rest of this question?
My only comment is this was, I think, really well done. I read through the whole thing and I was impressed with it. So good job.
Thank you.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
I thought it was great. I thought it has great information, presented well. I have some really minor wordsmithing stuff that I did, and honestly, it's really minor. So I emailed them to you. I don't know that going over in the meeting is sufficient.
Okay.
But it was more like put why not by precincts instead of why not precincts grammatically. Just very little things.
In the up top in the question, why not by precinct? Okay.
So I have no substantive edit.
Okay, I'll take a look. If there's a typo or a grammatical error, Dave pointed out a couple already. I'm certainly open to those.
Well done, and I like Dave's suggestion as well.
Okay, I agree. Yeah, once I saw it, they are hard to. Yeah, it was hard coming up with how forceful do you get into some of these, but I did like the suggestion he made here as well. Any other comments on this particular question? Okay. Do we want to vote on them individually or as collectively?
Collectively.
Collectively.
All right. Then I'm going to stop sharing this one, and I'm going to move on to, what's the next one? How do I participate? And again, let me bump up the size a bit. Okay, so again, what I did was I just went in and inserted. He also said I would open with a stronger statement here. He suggested, as we analyze the level of participation by voters in our current system of government, we realized that it seems like that it seems like everybody gets a say, but in reality, it's quite limited. And our proposal would provide greater level of participation from all voters by, and he said XYZ, which is kind of the body of the rest of it. He also had a suggestion here in the second paragraph. This is not text, this was a comment. And it's the participation stats that we included in why town council could also bolster this information here and what we're trying to get across. And he said, for what it's worth, I think it is very much okay to repeat that information across multiple questions, and would even argue that we should actively seek to do it. So we're driving a kind of a clear, concise message throughout. I was kicking that around versus at some point within here where it says, but in reality is really quite limited, doing a parenthetical saying, see analysis in the question, why town council, but agree people may not go there, may not jump to it. So I wanted to get everybody else's feedback and see what they thought about reiterating some of the, not all of it, but kind of the highlights of the statistics in the participation question. Sorry, in the why town council question.
That's an
Carrie's on
interesting
mute.
suggestion. Because I was thinking about this question, and I'm sorry, my dog is being noisy in the background. I was thinking about this question a little differently. And I thought the focus on how the new charter actually explicitly lays out ways for the public to be involved versus the current charter, which doesn't speak to it in some instances, was a good focus. So I hadn't thought of bringing in some of the town meeting and voting statistics in here.
It's fine. So would you be more in favor than Dave Heaney is joining us?
So I
what is he doing?
he's eating.
Oh.
Okay, we're done with that.
He needs a rubber bowl.
Is he eating the furniture?
Oh my God, he's got a metal bowl.
Yeah, he needs a rubber bowl.
And now the other one is going to start now because she knows he's done. So anyway, so I wonder how long this is going to get, because I actually did like the table and the one-to-one comparison. I think I had some feedback, like simplifying the first box in particular, because I think our point is that the current charter just doesn't speak to, permitting the public to speak at the beginning of committee meetings or and that sort of thing. And we took that into account, and we purposely included it. So I think for my so for example, in the table under current charter in that first box, I think I just said it's not mentioned. Persons need permission from the board or committee per Mass open meeting law, which states. And then, it's like the new charter requires that time be allotted. You know what I mean? So like really drawing that distinction, like, we really thought about this, and we think you're going to have more ability to be heard.
Okay.
So in bringing in the other stuff, I don't know how long it gets, and I don't know if other people, feel the same way about the table. I liked the illustration, but
I did too. And so this third paragraph here is also one of Dave Heaney's comments with regards to it, and saying likes it, but also wonders and, doesn't want to lose people. And to your point with regards to that first question is can we simplify it? And the answer is yes.
Especially if you're pointing to the section of the charter that they can see the legalese. So we can just keep it really simple and common language.
Okay.
Hey, Laura.
Yes.
Sorry, I don't know if you noticed, I'm here. I apologize for being late.
No, I see you.
Okay.
Hi. I told everybody I was admitting you.
Got it.
Thanks for joining us.
No problem.
We've already gone through the why at large. Everybody was very much in favor of your recommended change by putting a strong opening statement, and that was largely approved.
Cool.
And where we're talking about, so you jumped in, you had mentioned, should we add the participation, the town meeting participation data that we put in the Y-Town Council? And should we reiterate that? And I'm going to paraphrase Carrie to some extent. Now I forget exactly what.
Yeah,
I'm going to let Carrie talk.
My point was that I hadn't thought of. I'd been looking at this as strictly a, what does the charter say about public participation, and what does it allow for versus what the current charter is silent on and doesn't actually provide for the mandatory public input that we have in the current charter. So I hadn't thought about bringing in this other stuff, which I think is really interesting, but I wonder how long it gets if we do that, and if we lose the point that we think we heard you and we are trying to provide you with more opportunity to speak, I guess.
So I had made a suggestion that do we actually want to include the voter participation facts at town meeting here, or do we simply want to put a parenthetical, please refer to the question, why did we decide town council, for additional details?
So can I ask maybe a more basic question that would at least help to inform me? So I guess what is the dissemination mechanism for is this going to be like all of these questions are going to be on one web page? Are they going to be published individually? How are these going to be?
If you were here for the first half of the meeting.
I'm sorry.
I'm joking.
Oh.
Okay, to catch you up, these will be posted to our webpage. They will be spread through social media. They will also be recorded, and there will be a voiceover. So there'll be a presentation with a voiceover that will run on Norton Media Center.
Got it. So I guess my thought would be, if they are going to be all together, it makes sense to just have the information in one spot and maybe refer to it in the others. But if they are going to be independent and individually consumable, it might make sense to have the core of the message threaded throughout all of them.
So
sorry.
I was just going to say, I feel like the people that we're hearing this from, right, are the people that already go to town meeting. So it's not going to necessarily convince them to say, well, there's not a lot of people going to town meeting. That they want to know, I go to town meeting now. I am very active. How do I make sure I can stay active? Like that's who was asking the question. I think that's who our audience is going to be in answering this question, is the people that are already involved and how they can stay involved. So I don't know that stats on why town meeting, doesn't work, or the people aren't going and involved, is really going to support our, or going to help that audience specifically. If that makes sense.
It is a good point, because this does specifically address the people who were raising issues that they felt that it didn't allow for their participation ongoing if we elected town councilors.
And I would agree with Carrie's assessment on the chart, and just really, one or two sentences. Right now, not addressed. In the new charter, here's it doesn't have to get into the details of even necessarily the numbers, right? I don't think you necessarily have to get into even the numbers in the 3 months and this and that. I think you just need to say, we offer a mechanism for, what was the referendum? We offer a mechanism for reversing any decision made by town council, right? That's what people want to hear.
Okay. So
as opposed to how that works and the details of how that works, see section 7.4 for more information.
Okay. I'm also going to propose, because I had a lawyer I had done a summarized version of a policy for a client and ran it by legal, and legal came back and said, I would caveat it that they should be referring to the full body of the text of the original document for the actual terms and conditions, and any conflict, those would apply. So it's basically a cover your butt type of thing in case somebody comes in and said, you said. So, but I could put that at the end in tiny little print. And I also think, I forget who asked the question, I think Dave Heaney's point, were they all going to be placed in the same location? On the website, yes, they are, but they're going to be individual questions, and we'll probably number them sequentially in some logical order. So and I think if we, at the bottom of probably all of these, we should just have a standard. Please refer to the Charter Commission's webpage with a link to it for further information and details and answers to other questions, so that they know, they can click and get to it directly. If we are referencing, if we do decide, in here to say, in terms of the participation stats, refer to the Y Town Council question, people know where to find it and how to get to it. Because I think when we should probably talk about this, my theory initially was to post these all to the webpage at the same time, but in terms of releasing them out and cross-posting them, we should probably do it one at a time and stagger them out so that we're not hitting everybody with lots of information all at once. And I also think some of these are going to generate additional questions that are going to need to be addressed, and we're going to need breathing time in between those questions instead of getting hit all at once, if everybody agrees. I'm going to take the deafening silence as, yes, I agree. Thank you. Okay, so let's talk about the current and proposed charter chart. Does anybody disagree with it being included here? Is everybody comfortable with it, provided we edit it down, scale it down a bit?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to take that as a yes as well. Okay, so from there, is everybody comfortable with the added sentence? We'll need to do a little bit of wordsmithing here, but with the strong opening statement that Dave suggested, as we analyzed the level of participation by voters in our current system, we realized that it seems like everybody gets a say, but in reality, it's quite limited. And we would propose greater participation via yada, yada, yada. Is everybody comfortable with that opening statement?
Laura?
Yes.
I actually like the second statement there. Our proposal would provide. I think it would be, if we're going to start off, I think it's nice to start off with what our proposal actually do, as opposed to what the current government doesn't do. So I like the idea of starting off with strong, our proposal would provide a greater level of participation from all voters by, it seems to trail off there, but yeah. I like starting with that sentence as opposed to the first one there.
Okay.
I agree with Janie.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that too. What I was trying to do was just get, if somebody's only going to read the first paragraph, they should at least get an idea of what it is. Mm-hmm. I would, if we can somewhere fit in the first sentence, I'm totally fine if it's not at the beginning, but I think there's an impression out there, right, that there is a high degree of participation in the current system. Mm-hmm. And right, I just want to make sure that that is clear that, we looked at it, And while you could participate, and you can still participate in the new system as well, most people, the vast majority of people, do not, right? Based on everything that we saw.
All right. So how do we feel about it being input here? So we have the strong opening statement. I'll fill it in a little bit. We'll get into how the way you'll participate will change. You'll vote on every member of town council. They are responsible for making decisions in the best interest of everybody. They are answerable to you, and you have the ability to vote them out if you're not happy with them. And then we get into how there's more opportunity to be heard. And I think that seems to be a natural location for that sentence. But I want to read on further and see town council meeting open to the public. No, that's actually not the best spot for it. So, because we're getting into hang on, somebody is.
So Laura, I just stuck in the chat just as I was brainstorming, sort of to the same point that both Janie and Dave are making, like get to the point. I really wanted to emphasize that the current charter is silent on a lot of the things. So, and again, I was looking at this, the focus seemed to be on not necessarily participation at town meeting or at town council, but like just overall in how decisions get made and at public meetings, et cetera. So really wanted to say, look, the current charter doesn't explicitly provide this, but we took that into consideration, and here we're including it. But
right.
it's to the same point that Janie and Dave are making. So I'm not wedded to the language I just stuck in there. I just wanted to share it.
I hit the wrong button. I apologize. How do I participate? Share. Okay. I went to go to your chat to see. This is what I parsed out in the. Okay. So I'm going to grab this. Give me a second. More opportunity to be heard than provided in the current. Okay, so we've got an addition of this sentence here, if I've done this correctly.
And Laura, the only thing I want to be careful of here too in this question is if keeping our chart in, I want to be careful that we're not reiterating the same point that we're going to make lower in the chart as well.
Okay.
True. We may very well get rid of a lot of this and let the chart speak for itself if that is simplified and.
Okay, so this is up for question. Or do we move this up to the opening salvo, so to speak?
I like the idea for what it's worth. I like the idea of just starting with in the proposed charter and eliminating some of that other stuff even up at the top there.
Okay.
Not sure we need it, but that's just my opinion. I like starting off strong within the proposed charter and keeping that minimal as possible to stuff that we're not going to reiterate in the chart.
Okay.
Yeah, so to that end, I wonder if it's worth adding to the chart some of the things that are in here, like, so that you have the one-to-one comparison and see that certain things aren't changing, so the only changes are for the better and for more participation, but there are some things that are staying the same. I don't know if that comes across easier than in a written paragraph.
Yeah, I tried to anytime there was a way for participation within the existing, and in some cases, it's not even in the charter, it's in, bylaws. I forget which one it was specifically. No, it wasn't. Well, not the bylaws. The initiative petition is actually provided for by state law. We just happen to have put it in the current charter for some reason. I'm not exactly sure why. But that, regardless of what we did, would have already been, unless we changed it in some way, it was already provided for by state law. All right, so our proposal would provide a greater level of participation from all voters. The proposed charter is actually more opportunity to be heard. Okay, so we're feeling this is sort of a reiteration of what's already in the chart, or do we leave it in there with the understanding that some people aren't going to get to the chart? I can see both Carrie and Janie's point. I guess what's the...
I think the minimum we keep up at the top, the more likely they are to go down to the chart.
And a chart just might be visually easier for people to get their heads around.
Yeah, I know. My eye is immediately drawn to those types of things when I see it on a page with text, and I generally go back and read afterwards. So, all right. So to that end, Carrie, are you okay striking your suggestion?
Oh, see, that I thought was broader. I was thinking more like zoning. Put that in the chart and say, you're still going to go to public hearing, or adding. You know what I mean? So like taking some of this stuff out and adding it to the, so that we're not, so that we draw more people to the chart. And
I see what you're saying. Okay. All right, Janie, is that what you were getting at as well?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so instead of having here where it says charter will require time set aside for the public to speak, there'll still be public hearings for the zoning, but now we'll have a public hearing for the budget process. So we would have another. We would have to have another title. Although that's a good question. Are public hearings for zoning dictated in the charter, or is that a bylaw thing? The ZBA guy should answer that.
I guess the point is we didn't change it.
Yeah.
So, and if it's not in the charter, is this something that, I guess I assumed this was a question that had come up, that people were concerned that zoning changes wouldn't.
No, it was more of a way to say, we're not getting rid of things that were already there. But we didn't specifically, that's required by law. So. And it was a way to kind of say, in addition to that, we also have a public hearing now for the budget process. It was just kind of a way to get that to flow.
Because didn't we get the question, wasn't the question asked to us about like public hearings in general? And we made it sound like any public hearing was going to have to be requested. I think that was the interpretation, that because we have what is the citizen or free petition, right?
Yeah.
I think the misinterpretation was that if I want a public hearing on something, I'm going to have to request it by getting 100 people to sign or 100 people to petition. Versus, there's still going to be the public hearings that we have today are still going to exist, and then some. And then you have a right to call additional on your own.
I'm just trying to think of structuring this and how to best go about it. I think it would be hard. I think it would be hard to move some of this down into a chart. But I do agree.
Yeah, like zoning that wouldn't fit, clearly.
No, you know, if we got rid of the opening sentence.
But under public participation, we can talk about not just, you know, the set aside time for the meetings, but also, you know, a specific hearing on the budget and, you know, and kind of consolidate some of that. I know it's hard to like group edit.
Yeah.
This.
Well, I'm also, because this is good as a standalone because right now it doesn't exist here in the charter, but we put it here. If we start addressing the budget, there is a public hearing for the budget that the FinCom has to have, or for zone, well, even for zoning. You know, if we start talking about where it's not necessarily lacking in the current charter.
So could you at the top really focus in on what's staying the same, and then really in a chart say this is how it's enhanced?
Okay. All right. So town council, like all meetings, will be open to the public. Charter will require. All right. So we can get rid of this because we've already addressed it down below. Or do we leave it because it sort of reiterates the what we're trying to convey in terms of you get more? So, I mean, this I agree we can strike because it is basically a reiteration of what is down below if we decide to keep the chart. So that we could strike. I would probably suggest leaving that. And I'm going to kill that. I'm going to delete the comment. Okay. So there we go. So now the
Can you just say, Laura, in the proposed charter, there's actually more opportunity to be heard than in the current charter. The additions or the, you know, something about like the additions are provided in the chart below. And then additionally, town council meetings, like all meetings, will be open to the public. You know, so again, so you kind of put that sentence of it does more, it allows you to participate more, see the chart below for examples, and then give the stick to the things that are staying the same, that we're not losing.
okay. Something's happening. I'm typing and nothing's happening. It's telling me it's saving. Come on. Almost like my keyboard died.
You're gonna continue to wordsmith this
Yes.
whole chart, right? I mean, I'm just wondering if
Yeah.
if
Let me
maybe
work.
we can.
Yeah, I'll
You
work
have
on
an
it.
idea of what people are looking for, that you can switch it around and then send
I
it
do.
back out.
Yeah. I'll send it out via email and everybody can just kind of individually weigh in. although I am somewhat disturbed that I can no longer type. So that's a problem. I wonder if my batteries are dead in my keyboard. All right, hang on. I'm going to try to go to a different document and see. Yeah, same problem. Lovely. Forget which one we were on. How do I participate? All right. Oh, there we go. I'm back. All right, so I will wordsmith this and send it around to folks. And let's move on to the, I forget which one we have left. I'm going to stop sharing. All right, so we did why at large, we did how do I participate, so now we need why town council, correct? All right, sharing. Let me make it a little bigger. Okay. Dave had, I don't think I made any edits here. This one's a little bit longer than I liked, but it was the only way to kind of get everything across that I feel like we should. Dave Heaney, similar to the other questions, we get there in later statements, town meeting is neither efficient nor effective. I think the message is something like, town meeting is inefficient, leads to bad decisions, actually lessens participation in the process, and we should be hammering those, or whatever we decide what the ultimate message is, home at every chance we get. Need to constantly say on message. It also put an intro similar to the suggestion of why at large. Lots of people are going to read less than the whole thing, so we should have a stronger thesis statement.
Yeah, so the first part of that is similar to the other things about, do we want to have a line of communication through all of these? I think we decided that they're mostly independent, so that probably goes away. But I think we have also agreed that, you know, that stronger opening statement and is something that we want in these documents, right? If somebody's only going to read the first paragraph, they should get the message from it.
Okay, so this is not, you feel, the strong opening statement, this part here is?
Yeah, so to me, it's the it's what it is, right? Why we're doing it, and that's that town meetings is neither effective nor efficient.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the getting rid of the we felt part.
That was you. I don't remember who gave that to me.
Yeah, I did that too.
Okay. I had it. I knew somebody had given me the edit, but I didn't remember where. Okay, so we can strike that. All right, so oh, that didn't work. Hang on.
And I might suggest, Laura, even just taking that first sentence from gained efficiencies and making that the first sentence of the whole thing.
Okay.
Although I know, Janie, you had said earlier you didn't want to start with talking about what the old system wasn't. But I just like the contrast of, we're doing this because the old system was antiquated for these reasons, and we unanimously support this new one because of these reasons.
Okay.
No, I agree with that. I think that fits good because that's part of our point. I like the idea of wait, where is that said? Oh, town meeting form of government. I would almost throw in no longer effective or efficient.
I like that.
Okay.
as opposed to neither.
Yeah, maybe no longer instead of the in this day and age.
Or any longer is not effective or efficient way to is not a effective or efficient way to conduct business. Yeah, I wasn't really thrilled with this day and age, but I was tired at that point. Any longer. We're not going to stand for it. Town meeting form of government is not an effective or efficient way to conduct business any longer.
I like it.
Okay. So are we getting rid of the opening? I was trying to present it as this is a unified decision. We came to this conclusion unanimously.
Yeah, I don't think we need to get rid of that. I think that's a good
Yeah, I was just suggesting making that the second sentence.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So moving it down here. Or is it a second paragraph, or here?
In my head, so I think this works. In my head, it was literally the second sentence. So it would read, town meeting form of government is not an effective or efficient way to conduct business any longer. The Charter Commission unanimously chose, we'd have to rephrase it, the Charter Commission unanimously chose town council form of government as it provides appropriate balance,
And then I would move by meeting only twice. Then after those two sentences, I would put gain deficiencies and then have the by meeting only twice a year. Because you're introducing it with those first two sentences.
Got it.
You want to talk about the efficiencies and the accountability.
All right. Sorry, where is the gain in efficiency going again? Is it going here? Or is it going?
So yeah, put it there, but bring down as the first sentence, by meeting twice a year, decisions are made too slowly, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Got it. Sorry.
Take those next two sentences, by meeting until twice a year, and put those under gain deficiencies. So that the first two sentences are town meeting form of government is not effective. The Charter Commission unanimously chose.
Okay, Janie, I heard you in there.
Yeah, I was just going to say I don't like in the first sentence way to conduct business any longer. I just like this town meeting form of government is no longer effective or efficient, period. The Charter Commission unanimously chose town council form of government, and go on. I just don't like the ending part. I just feel like it's too wordy. I like just making a bold statement. We don't think it's efficient and we don't think it's effective, and we unanimously chose town council.
I agree with that.
Anybody disagree?
I do not disagree.
Gone. All right. Is not effective or efficient.
No, is no longer effective.
No longer. Damn it. Charter Commission unanimously chose town council form of government as revised or appropriate. Okay, so we've got that. Gain deficiency. Oh, I do like this. This works better. Meeting only twice a year. Decisions need a legislative body. They can act on things more quickly.
And honestly, I would get rid of the slash and put twice a year.
Per year or a year?
I would say a year.
Okay.
Can we include in gain deficiencies and representation in the title?
Sure.
Because you're talking about that too, right? In that paragraph.
Better and long-term forecasting.
I'm sorry, that was the wrong one.
I was going to say, I don't think it does.
No, accountability, under accountability. Greater accountability and representation. That was what I was looking for.
Got it.
I just think that word needs to go in there.
All right. I did get I had partial data from a report that Denise had pulled, and then I got more up-to-date or current town meeting data, which actually dropped these numbers even further, so which was interesting.
Hey, Laura, I know I haven't said much tonight, but
Jump in.
Under the gained efficiencies, the very last sentence, and not at the whim of whoever shows up.
Yep.
I guess I'm wondering if that's slightly insulting to the people who did show up.
It is. And I did, in one document, I had a comment in here and had a question that said soften, question mark. So, and not, is the question with not at the whim of, or is it the entire, you want to strike the entire thing in terms of not even whoever shows up?
Maybe instead of like not at the whim of saying leaving decisions from many to few or something like that.
And that, maybe at the
to a few. All right.
Yeah, I struggled with this too. I had sort of toyed with, not simply the special interest, because that came up a lot in our conversations with people. Like, it seems that there are special interests that really rule town meeting. But then you talk about special interests later. So I gave up on trying to wordsmith this.
Well, what I was trying to get at here is no matter by having planning and the town manager and all of the departments being able to meet with and get on board with the people who are making these decisions, they're better able, they can rely on their long-term, we can rely on their long-term forecasting and planning because they got the input from the decision makers up front. What I was trying to get at here is there wasn't that ability, because if you have an entire special interest group show up, they could just literally sink your entire plan with the casting of a vote, without really knowing what the implications of it are. That's what I was trying to get across, but I do see it's okay. So it allows for to be done with the consultation input of informed and not. It is sort. I am trying to get up, it's not left to the whim of whoever happens to be there.
Hey, Laura, this whole sentence. It's not really gaining efficiencies, right? It's a different thing. And I think the planful and informed part of things is included elsewhere. And is it better to just punt this whole sentence? Right? Because I think that even the beginning of it, when we talk about informed decision makers, that might even imply that people that are making decisions now are uninformed and also be something that we might want to change. So I wonder if the whole sentence can just be struck. Yeah,
I'm okay with getting rid of informed and just leaving it as the input of the decision makers. But I do think it does provide the efficiency to the town manager, to the planning board, the planning director, because whether efficiency or effectiveness is probably the better word, because they're not at the risk of having worked on something for a year and having it undone at town meeting, is what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, I totally get the point. I wonder if we just put a period at the end of planning and leave it like that. Because I hear where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to lose people, I think.
All right.
Whereas if we just come out and say what we want to say.
If I got to describe it that much, then yeah. Does everybody else agree?
I agree.
Okay.
Dave, were you saying also the more informed decision makers title at the bottom was I don't know. I don't know if insulting is the right word, but again, right, can is going to have the same effect.
I hadn't said that, and
Okay,
I
thought
think
that's what you were talking about.
I was talking about specifically in that sentence up there. I think given that even just the one sentence we can see here on the screen is more explanatory, right? And so as Laura was trying to explain in that one sentence above, there's a whole section for it below. So I think that's probably more okay. But there's just so many ways to read a word or two in a sentence that I'd hate for someone to take it not what it was intended to be.
Yeah, I guess, and I don't think the last paragraph really addresses this, but I mean, transparency is something we've heard a lot, right? That word a lot, and I think that came into our decision about greater information would be going out and that kind of thing. So I guess I'm wondering if that more informed decision makers, if there's a better title that would fit.
I do see the point.
I think what we're trying to say is that it's unreasonable to expect the entire body of voters for the town to be informed on all of the details of the inner workings of the town. Right? So maybe it's something that's more about
unburdening them.
Yeah, I was leaning towards like reasonable expectations of the voter, something along those lines. So, but I like yours too. I'm just glad I'm not the one typing while everyone's looking at it right now.
It's clunky.
As I try to read it. I wonder if this is similar in that maybe there's an agreement here among the group that what we want to say is something about, hey, it's unreasonable to expect that everybody in town is going to read through all of this stuff and be able to vote on it. What this is allowing is a select group of people whose role it is specifically to do that, right? And what we get to vote on is the type of person we want in those seats.
Talking about this is maybe dedicated.
I lost your audio there. Your audio was coming in and out, Carrie.
Oh, sorry. Dedicated decision makers instead of more informed decision makers, or something like that. To
I like dedicated.
Describe them as, these are people who have volunteered to be responsible for knowing the intricacies that, it's not really reasonable to ask everybody.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's their job to know this stuff, but it's I stopped myself from saying that because it's not a job, but like it's the same idea that you're
but it's their responsibility, right?
Yeah.
They've volunteered to take on this responsibility.
Yeah,
I like dedicated. I think it's a little less. Yeah, I hadn't considered how that would look, but I do see Sandy's point. All right, so I think we said we were going to strike this sentence entirely up here.
that part of that sentence, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ended it with planning. Okay. All right. Did anybody have any issues within greater accountability and representation?
I like it. It drives home the point of this is, the idea of town meeting is great. The reality of it is the participation is virtually nil.
Yeah, it just doesn't work anymore. Okay. And then did anybody have any comments, suggestions, edits to the body of the dedicated decision makers?
maybe it's I'm sorry to jump in, but
Sure.
on the greater accountability.
That's why you're here.
Yeah, I think you moved on now, so I apologize. I just noticed it. Our
Go ahead.
open town meeting has essentially become a representative town meeting.
Yeah, up here.
I'm just not sure anybody's gonna know what that means.
Yeah, I had a feeling the question may come up on one somewhere along the line. Why didn't we go? I also think the opposition campaign is probably going to say we should have gone with representative town meeting, and I was trying to counteract that in advance.
Right, because the input that we got from other towns that had representative town meetings was that it was essentially the same issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I understand that point. I'm just not sure that sentence. I don't know. I don't think the average reader is going to have any idea what that's getting at. I think
Okay.
I don't.
So maybe Laura just putting a sentence in somewhere that just said we considered all of the forms, of government, and this was the only one that accomplished all those goals. Sort of to say, we did look at, because the question is, why did we choose a town council, right?
Yeah.
And so we're saying that either at the beginning or the end, I would say something to the effect of we looked at all forms of government, and the town council was the one that met the goals below.
I don't know what it is, but there is a definite lag between my keyboard and the screen, and maybe it's because I'm sharing.
It's probably Comcast's fault.
It's probably.
Always Comcast's fault.
Internet's going to crash any second. We looked at all forms of town government, and
how about it provides the best balance of effective and efficiently run government?
I'm not sure I would put this in the first sentence because I in the first paragraph, because I really like that tight, like 2-sentence, like this is what we did. And then maybe describe, we looked at all forms of government or something to that effect down under greater accountability and representation.
This is painful.
I know. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just going, stop. I don't even know where the mouse is anymore. Jesus Christ. And I'm not typing double O's and double E's, I swear to God. And it provided the...
So you want to see it down below then, Carrie, instead, right?
Yeah. Sandy,
yeah, I like the strong opening with those first 2 sentences.
All right, but finish the sentence for me. Provided the...
Well, if you're going to pull it out of that first paragraph, I think you need to come up with a new sentence down below, right? Because you're not going to, I want to leave the content there. So it's just more of a summary.
Well, we do, yeah. So I think a closing sentence actually would be helpful here as well. We felt town
I would
council,
leave out any we felt. Like we decided or we discovered, like
it
more
is
forceful.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Jesus Christ. Tell me how to end this
How
sentence.
hard it is to like group.
I'd use a period.
So
Right there?
I was being sarcastic about ending sentences. Sorry. It's been a long day.
Looked at all forms of town government, and town council provides. Good Lord.
Why do we need a sentence like this at the end?
Yeah, why not just, or just, we looked at all forms of government and town council, you could reiterate your fact at the top that we think it's more efficient. But I don't think you need to say anything different.
Okay.
But if you want a summary sentence, you could just reiterate the point from the top. I don't necessarily think you need it, but
I think what Laura was initially getting at was she wanted to mention that we did look at other forms, including representative.
I forgot how we got here, so thanks, David.
Yeah, because we were taking that sentence out of the other sentence, right? You were going to take that out.
I did already, yeah.
Yeah, so that was just my suggestion for putting it in a different way to get your point across, which is that we did look at representative town meeting and we still didn't like it.
Can you scroll back to the top, Laura? Or I suppose I could open this on my computer too.
No, it's okay. The other option is to leave it out entirely, and then wait for somebody to come and ask the question.
How about making the second sentence there where it says the Charter Commission unanimously chose? How about something after a deliberation process lasting X months and considering all possible forms of government, the Charter Commission unanimously chose town council. Or after careful study of all possible options.
Okay. In depth?
Sure.
Possible or potential?
Maybe just all options, because
I'm thinking a period at the end of government and then start a new sentence. It provides.
Where are you, David? Sorry.
Line 3. I mean, that's a long sentence. So at the end of government, put a period. At the other government, I'm sorry, to the very left. So unanimously chose town council form of government, period. It provides an appropriate balance of effective and efficiency running government.
I still like the way it was before with just those two sentences.
Well, I just think I'm just getting at that. That's a very long sentence without the period.
No. I agree. If you're gonna write this, I would split it up. But I would put after an in-depth study, like after this. I would still think it's stronger to start with those first two sentences that we had.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. I think you stick with answering the actual question. We can't anticipate every other question. I mean, if we wanted to put a question below that said, why not other forms of government, we could do that. But I just think we stick with answering the question itself and leaving out as much stuff that's not needed. Just answer the question and straight to the point.
Yeah. And we do get to, this is kind of for the too long didn't read crowd. Our report fully addresses all of this if they just read it.
Yeah.
Which they won't, but we wrote it. So I agree. Yeah, I can see the point of let's wait and see if we get the question, why not RTM, or why not some other form of government? So I'm fine leaving it with the two bold statements if everybody else is okay here.
I'm fine with it.
Hearing no objection.
I like it.
Okay. I forget where we left off. Everybody was okay with so I'm going to strike this here too. Everybody was okay with the body of the text within the dedicated decision makers?
I didn't have any substantive.
Okay. Everybody's good with this one? All right. One more. And that should be a pretty quick and easy one because it's not really a well, I guess it is a question. So has a change in the form of town government, towns in the town's form of government ever been considered before. The highlighted section, a couple of people have mentioned to me that maybe a bit harsh. I did make one edit here from the version that you saw. I did go back and confirm that the non-binding question was put to a ballot question in the 2005 election, which makes sense because the recommendations from the Town Government Study Committee were in June. They would have missed the that year's election, but I was not certain whether it was done at a special called election. I can't imagine you would call for a special election for a non-binding question. So
That was a regular election.
Yeah. So it's factual. It is a little harsh. I am open to suggestions. I'm also happy to just say, however, nothing further was ever done. What do people feel?
I think that the highlighted sentence or the highlighted part is a little inflammatory. And we get the same result with just however nothing further was ever done.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I very well said, Dave. I would go the same way.
Okay.
I would agree.
I mean, I don't disagree with that sentence. I think that's what was done.
Yeah. It's factual.
Yeah, I'm not definitely not arguing it.
Yeah.
Because if they wanted it done, they would have got it done.
Yeah, there was a clear recommendation. There was a path given by town council. They went so far as to even call for a vote on it if they wanted to enact it by a special legislation.
Yeah. I mean, if it wasn't done, there could be excuses why, but at the end of the day, if they wanted it done, it would have got done.
Okay. All right. Are we all in agreement to strike this then and just leave it at however nothing further was ever done?
I'm good.
Okay. Anybody have any other comments, questions, edits, suggestions here?
Laura, I would, for me reading it, I would get rid of, I think, the first two sentences because I don't feel like it answers the question. The question is, has a change in the town's form of government ever been considered before? And I think we should lead with yes, because it's a yes or no question. So lead with yes. And then in 2003, and then just stick to those facts there.
Okay. I like it.
I agree with that suggestion. I would put yes, period, and then start a new sentence.
Okay. Everybody's happy with this? Okay.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to say that was all I had. The one other thing I was going to mention was because we are actually on the same ballot as a debt exclusion question, I don't want to complicate and confuse matters. So instead of doing this as a frequently asked question that we will put out for review, we're going to just simply put a statement with regards to Proposition 2.5 questions like we have stated at all of our public hearings. And it'll just simply be literally it will say the impact of the Charter Commission recommendations on Proposition 2.5 questions. And it will address, it still has to go to the voter. It will not take your vote away, but it will not, it will not stir the hornet's nest further. So that one will go out there as well. And I think everybody's pretty comfortable. I'll probably pull the wording directly from the report that we had put in there and scale it back a little bit.
Or the other thing I was thinking of with something like that is I wonder if, especially through social media or other things we can push out there, myths versus facts. For some of the things we're hearing and, it doesn't have to be right away, but it's maybe like right before the election.
Yeah.
To just kind of get into, the myths that we're kind of hearing, the misinformation we're hearing versus the corrected facts.
Okay. So the first one I can think of is you're taking my voice away. We can address the Prop 2.5 questions there as well. Nope. Must have lost Janie. Janie, we lose you? You back? Janie?
Yeah, sorry about that. My computer died, so I'm on my phone now. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. Sandy had just suggested later on in the process maybe doing another standalone piece of just kind of myth versus facts, and one of them being I'm not sure where you dropped off, but I said I was going to put instead of releasing this as a frequently asked question, putting it just as a statement piece on the website, the impact of the Charter Commission's recommendations on Proposition 2.5 questions. And then Sandy had suggested at some point we may need to do kind of a myths versus facts piece, kind of addressing some of the things, the misinformation that may start floating around. We may not need it, but something to think about. I'll put it on my to-do list. So we were thinking in terms of, you want to take my voice away, or you want to take my vote away on override questions, that sort of thing.
Laura, the other question, the other FAQ that we had talked about was just something to address the water and the DPW changes.
All right, who wants to write that one? Not it. I'm going to volunteer somebody.
I think Dave had some great suggestions tonight.
Dave Heaney or David Wren?
Dave Heaney was great at the whole, strong introduction sentences, and
Just means I'm all out of ideas, Sandy. I used them all up.
I'll do it.
No. I definitely heard Dave Heaney volunteer for that question. And he has made some very strong points this evening. He has a voice. He should be heard.
I would be happy to
Thank you, David.
work with David Wren on completing that task.
No, I was just thinking that, Dave. I'll help you out. Yeah. So.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. So I think we're at least with the agenda. Is everybody happy with the questions that we've got for now? I know I've got to do some work on the participation one, and I will send that around in an email for just everybody to kind of look at, and you can give me individual feedback from there, and I'll merge it. I'll assume we're all generally comfortable with the structure and the concept and what we're trying to get forward. So if there's any edits to it, let me know. I think so. Sorry. Other than that, is everybody okay with what we've discussed so far tonight? Okay.
Yeah.
I think the best, instead of trying to schedule the next meeting, is to let me go out to the school committee and the FinCom. I think it was recommended that if we wanted to get in front of FinCom, we should do it earlier rather than later, before they get too heavily into the budget process. And I think at this point, I think they're meeting once a week. I believe they meet on Mondays, which are our normal meeting nights anyways. I'm not sure what time they meet. I'm assuming it's at 7. So we can go to them, do a quick overview, answer any questions they might have, make a plea for their support, and then drop off and do our own meeting, and we can kind of do a update on where we are. We'll do the same thing for the school committee, unless it happens to be in the same week, in which case we'll just make that our next meeting, or one of those our next meeting. Is everybody okay with that? And hopefully that's sometime in the next 2 weeks, and not, what day is today? Thursday. Hopefully not Monday. So I'll try and avoid, although we can't meet next Monday. So it would have to be the week after. Unless FinCom, we could conceivably go to school committee next week if they were meeting. So everybody's okay with that plan?
Yep.
Okay. The other thing I will probably be sending around is I do have to work on the script that Kevin and I are doing. I'll get Kevin's input and make sure it kind of, is representing his voice, so to speak. And then
boy.
I will send it around to the group once Kevin and I are happy with it, and make sure everybody else is satisfied with what's being relayed. But it's going to be more of a pitch, so to speak, as opposed to here's what we decided, because anybody can find that anywhere and come to our information session. So this will be a direct plea or rationale. Everybody's okay with that? Okay. Anything else anybody else would like to discuss this evening?
Happy birthday, Sandy.
Yeah, let's let Sandy go. Let's go. Let
Thank
Sandy get her
you.
cake.
It's an amazing cake.
It does look nice.
Are you 30 this year?
Exactly, yes.
The chair will accept I'm going to stop sharing. We'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Everybody's in favor? Yes, nodding their heads.
Yes.
We're all good. All right. Where is Keith? Keith, are you still there?
Right
really-
here.
You're really quiet. You okay with everything?
Yeah, I've been fine. I had a couple problems at the house.
Okay.
Doing fine.
All right. Are you okay with everything we've discussed tonight?
I'm
Okay.
fine, yep.
All right. Anybody needs anything, just yell. And thank you for your time. And I'll be in touch via email.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
Bye.
Good night.
Goodbye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.